Okay,
Weird.
what's weird? They disappeared?
Well, that was also weird, but it's weird that YouTube changed that. But yeah. Hi.
Oh yeah, hi. Hi. So it's so different. It's just rolling. It feels so, I don't know. It's very intense, but it feels so much more friendly because we're all just hanging out, and we go on and off camera. What do you guys think? What do you think about this as opposed to the, you know, previous format of a couple videos a couple interviews every day, and the next day a few more? Do you like
It's
this?
like it's like an actual retreat. Like everyone's just like in it together. You mean?
Something like that? Yeah, yeah. And like I'm going now, I'm coming back. Get up and stretch. It's just feels very light. Love this format. Feels so personal, family. Yeah, I didn't know that it would. I like it too, especially yeah. Okay, so let me move forward. So I want to officially introduce to you Kaley Zeitouni. I just finished an amazing program with Kaley that she was doing, and I was a student in the program. And she does incredible work. She has many talents, skills, and offerings for the world, but one of her central stories is that she was diagnosed with MS at age 12 and really experienced from that very young age what it was like to be, ill, to have an illness that supposedly is almost always incurable, but she doesn't have it anymore. And through that experience, and she went through a few iterations, but through that experience, she became an illness recovery coach, which means that she literally works with people who have diagnoses or symptoms that they haven't been able to get rid of, and helps them to create a deep connection between mind, body, and soul, and the potential of the body. And she is a wealth of healing techniques, and many of them she proved on herself before she, I'm sure, Kaley, that you took the most effective of what you experienced. And Kaley got married last year. I think it was last year. And
yeah, almost exactly.
yeah, living in Pomona, New York, and doing her work from there and just expanding. So it's really, really so fun to have you back.
Oh, thanks. It's so special to be here. I love that you've been doing so many summits. It's so much fun. Like it's fun for me. I think all the speakers are just having a blast. So like this is what else should we be doing right now? This is what we should be. So yeah, thank you. And it's amazing to be here. And it's like, as I'm hearing you, it's interesting because it's always so weird when I hear someone like share, parts of my bio. Every time it's a different experience, what that's like.
Yeah.
Sometimes it's like, yeah, okay. And other times you're like, oh, that was me, like it's every time is a little bit different. Like, wait, are they talking about me? And it was sort of interesting as I was hearing you now, because I just sort of was feeling like, I'm so glad, I'm so grateful. Like all of that led to this. Like I'm so, like, when I was a kid, I knew I wanted to have these kinds of conversations. I just didn't know how to have them. I didn't have anyone to have them with. So God, it all led to this moment, Like, so that's what I was thinking. I was like, wow, okay. That was a long road to get right here, but yeah, totally. I feel very, very grateful. So I'm really excited to be here today. And yeah, thanks for including me. It's so special.
Very special for me. By the way, I think our neighbor is hammering. So if you hear that, sorry about that, but I don't think there's anything I can do. At least it's on and off, hopefully mostly off. Okay, so I'll be very, very blunt. From my end, the topic of our conversation has changed a few times. I don't know. So I'm not sure where.
Yeah,
I know it's on the speaker page, and it's really all the same topic, but it's, what direction are we going to go? So health is the most natural miracle in the world. Should we start with that?
Let's start with that and what that means, right? So when we think about health in our society today, we're so used to illness. We all know we either are living with some kind of diagnosis, even if we're talking about like something smaller. This doesn't have to be something huge, right? or a loved one. This affects everybody. So this is what we think as the norm. But the truth is that it's not the norm. Health is the norm, right? Health is the natural state throughout history. And we talked about this on the last summit. I wasn't actually intending to bring this up today, but I'll just do it just in case we have different viewers and whatnot, just to like lay the groundwork as an introduction, right? Human beings asked for illness, right? Jacob, our forefather, asked for illness so that he would know, because what used to happen was just like, we would just die.
I think you sneezed first.
You sneezed. You sneezed?
Short warning.
That was your warning. That was it, right? So Yaakov says, I want a heads up. I want time with my family. I want to know that that's happening. I need time. So he asks for this. So interestingly, like, it's much more natural to be in a state of health than otherwise. So I want to preface everything with that this is like something just a little bit off, right? Any kind of illness, any symptoms is like, wait, that's unnatural. We should think of that as unnatural, but it's so easy to think that this is just normal. So then, okay, we kind of just like put up with it. We just live with it. I go to the doctor, I figure it out, I tough through it, right? And we hear these phrases so much. It's just part of aging or whatever comes up, right? And so when I want us to start to think about, to reframe that, like, hold on, no. Health is actually the norm. It's much more natural to be in a state of health than in a state of dis-ease. And I just want to clarify, when I say, the reason I always say it that way is because it's just being out of ease. Okay. There's a lack of ease in the system, in the body, in the soul and mind. Okay. I don't like calling it disease because it's this like big scary thing, right? It's
right.
Right. So that's why I always say it that way. So I want to preface it. Now, what does that mean and how do we go there? The reason that's such an important conversation for me right now at this point is exactly this summit, right? Miracles and Metamorphosis. The whole history of the world has been gearing up for this moment. And the like pinnacle of this moment is the body. Okay. So we think about world peace, right? We think about like, one of the things I think about is like not having really annoying daily stressors. I think about that. Like, that's going to be so nice, right? Like systems are just going to flow and work, right? I mean, hello, you're in Israel, like the capital of bureaucratic complication, right?
Yeah,
so,
but I don't go to too many offices. I'm just sitting here looking at the mountains.
Love it. That's how it really should be. So we think about that, but actually all of this begins and ends with the body. Right. So like one of the most famous things that even people who don't know a lot about Mashiach times and Geula, most people have heard at least of like the rise of the dead, Tchiyat HaMetim, right? Most people have heard of that. Hello.
Most religions, I think.
Most religions, that's the body. Like that takes a pretty profound level miracle.
Right.
So it's almost easier. I see this a lot in people. I find people are more likely to believe in like the resurrection of the dead than the ability of the body to heal from illness. And I'm just like, what? Hold on. Like, wait. We have to break this down. So what does it mean that like, this is what we've all been working for? So the whole point of creation is for God to have a dwelling place in this world, to interact with us, and to have a dwelling place in a physical reality. And the only way that
and to be fully expressed.
And to be fully expressed.
His own essence and his own being.
Exactly. His atmos, his essence. The only way that happens is through the body. I can't do other things. Now, I'm not saying that like obviously I work with all kinds of illnesses. So obviously someone who's like paraplegic, that doesn't mean that person's doesn't have a way or an access to express God in this world. Absolutely does. But because they're in a physical experience, how does that happen? Why does that happen? Because in a physical body that is very limited, okay? In a physical body, I have to work for that relationship with God, right? That's where the metamorphosis comes in. I have to work with that relationship with God, right? So the irony is like, it's this physical limitation, but that actually gives me the opening to expansion. So, so I'm like trying to stay with it. So, because it's easy for me to get like excited and to go on tangents, but I want to kind of go step by step with
I don't
everyone.
know what you mean at all.
We love our tangents, right? So, so let's think about this, right? So something comes up in my life. I have a crisis. I'm breaking down, or it's just a desire. Sometimes we just have a natural inspiration that doesn't come from crisis, that doesn't come from some challenge. It just comes from like, just want to be close to you, right? I just want to be close to God. I want to have a spiritual experience. So what happens is we reach for God, right? This is the rotse. This is that intense rush desire. I reach for God. So I go to this very high place spiritually. Okay. So here's my physical body. I go up there. I have this intense spiritual experience. It doesn't matter. It's happening up there. I have to, in order for it to mean anything, I have to bring it back into the body and integrate it. Right. And that process of integration, that process of going up and coming down and going up and coming in, right? That process, which is metamorphosis, like we need to go through that to transform. That's our spiritual growth. That's our spiritual journey, is what the body actually needs that too. The body was built for that purpose, because we cannot do the like running and returning without the body. We would just be in.
It's successive layers of the soul going into the body, which is also the dwelling place in the lower world. It's the partner, soul and body are partners.
Exactly. So that work, that soul work, is actually body work, right? So the body's work in this world is soul work. Like they're one and the same. They have to come together.
Wait, I love that expression. Soul work is body work. That's, wow. Yeah, that's really, that's cool. And true.
It is. I just got the chills hearing you say it. I think that might be the first time that I've said it. So like, I heard you say, I was like,
write it down.
Yeah, that's totally what it is. Right. Soul work is body work. Right. And it's so funny because we actually, like if you look at our society today, we totally separate them. But it is what it is. So when people ask me, how did you heal? I get that question all the time. I'm like, okay, how many hours do you have? And really, how many years do you have? Because I thank God found a way. It took a lot of trial and error to distill it and to give people like a step-by-step map. But if you think about it, right, and you experience a lot of this, it's a soul journey. And always the first few weeks of my course, people always think like, this is so weird. Why am I doing this? I came here to heal my body. Why are you asking me to do these things? What does that have to do with self-love? Like, why are you telling me to talk to myself differently and to talk to my loved ones differently? Like, what? Because it's soul work, and that allows the body to experience godliness in it, which is what it came here for. Without that, it's like the body's on fire.
Wait a second. Wait, stop. Hold your thought. No, just when it just felt like it went a little too fast.
Yeah.
For my, probably because I'm something is absorbing newly. So I don't even remember what you said that my brain was trying to grasp. You when people ask me to repeat the last thing I said, but can you repeat it?
Yeah, no, I don't hate it. I'm really glad that you stopped me because I'm not even at like the deeper thing I really want to say. So I want to make sure we all have this foundation before we go there. So, excuse me. So I started out, right. The first thing I was saying was just like, I can't distill like, how did I heal in like this, right? Because it was this deep, intense soul work, right? And the body needs that work because that's actually why the body's here. The body is here for the soul work, right? It's for that unfolding. It's for that integration of spirituality, of godliness, of God consciousness in my cells, like physically in my cells. This isn't exactly what I said, but I'm trying to reiterate somehow, right? So I love our conversations. It's so much fun. So
when you get downloads, then people ask you to repeat. You're like, wait, what did I say? I don't know.
Yeah. Yes, exactly. Yeah. So someone just put in the chat. I'm not seeing the full chat. I just want everyone to know, like, if someone's writing something I don't see, I see a lot of familiar names. So thank you all for being here. It's so special to see your names. But the one thing that just popped up that really stood out to me was temple body, right? And there's a whole breakdown of the Beit HaMikdash, of the temple, right? That maps onto the body. That is not like, we should not be taking that lightly as like, oh, that's such a nice metaphor. Oh, that's such a cute thing. No, like that is so real. Like, and we can experience the Holy of Holies in our body. That's, our body wants that. That's not just for like that. Doesn't that sound really nice? Doesn't that sound delicious for us to like sit and meditate on it? Wouldn't that be incredible on a daily basis to access your Kodesh Kadoshim, your Holy of Holies in your body, feel that is the place that you can be closest with God, right? To come to that place. It's no longer just, oh, only the Kohen Gadol can go there. I could go there inside myself, that I have a portal in my body, right? Physical. It's not just that it feels good to me. It's that my body actually needs me to do that. It needs us to be doing this work. And I can only experience the Holy of Holies in a godly way when I'm constantly working on that relationship with God, which is that cycle. It is that cycle of intenseness, passion, closeness, expansion. Okay, now I integrate. Now I integrate in a really real physical way, in a physical experience, right? You know me, like I would love to just live up here, right? But like we have to be integrating. We have to go into it. Like this week is, it's really interesting. There's so many interesting things this week, right? But this week is like taxes in the US, right? Yeah. It's tax day in the US yesterday. And I really contemplated this a lot with my husband. Like, I mean, I hate that. That is like one of like the things that like, I feel like it's a total waste of my purpose and my time on this earth. And he really pushed back at me. And he's like, how can you be the person who like talks about the importance of God in the physical? You have to find God in your taxes. And I was like, oh man, you're right. I do have to do that. Like I had to really sit with that. That's part of the work, right? So our physical body needs us to be doing this Rotzev Eshuv, and this spiritual work, this spirituality, this transformation, this metamorphosis. And not just our physical body, but the entire unfolding of this stage of human history is for this. So that Tchiat HaMetim is, it's going to be so normal. It's just going to be like
the revival of the
yes.
dead.
Yes, the revival of the dead. Thank you. It's like, to us, it's like, that sounds like, what's that going to look like? Is that going to be weird? How is that going to happen? Is that real? Are we talking about this literally? What? It's the more we do this work, the more we are seeing spontaneous remission all over the world. It's happening even when people don't know that that's what they're doing and don't know like that it's a spiritual process. They're going through awakening. They're doing their inner work. They're in a process, right? They may not be putting it in the context or using the language that we're using, but as they're doing that, what are they doing? They're drawing God consciousness into the body, and that the body's going, yes, this is what I needed. This is what I came for. I need this. I need this to function. And we don't think that. We think about like the water, right? My body needs water to function, and all the supplements and all the nutrients and maybe some exercise and some sunlight, right? It needs this, right? All of that is also important, right? We take care of ourselves in the physical, but we do that in a way that's connected to godliness. That's why we pray before we put the food in our mouth, right? It's constant drawing down of God consciousness. So when we think,
can we pause for 1 second? Don't lose your thought. Okay. I just want to reflect back that it's just a very, sometimes you hear things you must have heard before. I mean, I must have heard this before. A lot of it, I'm sure, I know I heard it before, but it's hitting on a deep level that this period of time is to draw God consciousness into the body. Maybe I never heard it exactly that way or thought about it exactly in those words. My purpose on the earth is to draw God consciousness into the body. I mean, I guess that's what all the mitzvahs are about, the commandment to use, but it has a very strong, beautiful resonance, that idea that the body needs it.
Yeah, 100%. The body needs it. The body needs it.
That's what makes the body well, ultimately, eternally well.
Yes. And that's why in this next phase of human history, there won't be illness, right? Because we will all have a knowing of God. We will have a knowing of God, not just like an experience that lasts for a few seconds and then 10 minutes later, I'm in my stress mode, right?
Yeah.
Remind myself, oh, right, let me trust in God, right? Right? It's going to be so embedded in all the fabric of the universe and the fiber of everything that we see. And more than anywhere else in the universe, we will see it in our body, right? In Job, it says, from my flesh, I will see God, or I will see God in my flesh. I might be like,
sorry, yeah. No, for my
Yeah.
flesh, I see God. Yeah.
yeah, from my flesh, I will see God. And there's, I mean, discourses upon discourses going into this, like what, how, what, explain, right? And it's really saying like the body is actually higher than the soul. And the body is where we're actually going to experience the full revelation of godliness. And it's happening now. It's not like it's going to happen all of a sudden. And the other thing that we understand, and this is where like why it's so important to me that we talk about how natural this is. We think of miracles as like,
I have to keep slowing you down. Not that you're going fast, but you keep saying things that I think are really important to note. Like it's not going to, we look at it like it's going to happen in the future. All these prophecies, you're saying it's not just going to happen in the future. We are creating it step by step in our own experience right now in this transition place. Okay. That's
Yes, we are creating it. No, I'm really, really glad you're emphasizing that point. That's an essential point that I don't think I conveyed well. We are creating it, which means for a lot of us, it's very easy. I think this is definitely easy. And I used to be like this. I just want to like really own that like, okay, Mashiach's going to come and I will be healthy then. So it's going to happen, right? No, it's the opposite. Mashiach comes because we're doing the work to heal ourselves, right? Mashiach can fully reveal, right? And like the Rebbe said this, like, I need you guys to do this. Like, I need you to do it. Everyone will come to him, but I need
today. He said it on this very day, the 28th of Nisan. Yeah.
And there's so much about today, by the way. It's like the 28th of Nisan. We're also in Rosh Chodesh Iyar. Like at the beginning of the month of Iyar, just for those who don't know, Iyar, the letters is Ani Becha. Right? I am God, your healer, right? The healer. So I mean, there's just a lot in this time, which is so powerful. We have access to this now in such a powerful way. So we have to be doing that work, not just for, I really want to also reveal Mashiach, but also because it's what my body wants and needs, because that's delicious to my body, because that's the whole reason I came here as a human being, was to have this different kind of relationship with God, where I go into the spiritual realms. I get really, really high. I'm flying. I'm expansive. It's blissful. Okay. And now I want to bring that back. I want to ground that. I need to make that like tangible and in the body, in the physical world.
The natural state. I have to let everybody know, I'm looking to the side because I have the Kaley in front of me, and then I have the chat on the side. And also now I started writing down some things, but I think I may not go back and listen to all the interviews. So I want to.
It's always hard to do that.
Oh, it's impossible for me. I mean, it's the next thing that is always the next thing coming up. I'd love to, but
yeah. So the other thing I want to say is you brought up the 28th of Nisan with it, which is Koach Nisan, so Koach means strength, and it's the strongest day of the month, right? So Nisan is also the month of miracles.
Yeah.
So we're at this like amazing moment. We're at this like sliver where we're in the strongest moment in the month of miracles. We have this power to reveal this. So I love that this is our conversation today. Okay. And on the other half of that sliver is the month of healing. We've got both. It's interesting, incredibly profound.
So yeah, you're talking about miracles that are standing out of nature and miracles that are being drawn into nature, that Ratzov Shuv that you keep referring to. That's really interesting.
Yeah. And it's our job to reveal the miracle. So when people go, oh my gosh, you healed yourself. No, God healed me. I just did a lot of work, worked really, really hard to help reveal that, right? It's still God's miracle.
Wait. Sorry. Sorry.
Go ahead.
I mean, having a lot of pops in this call.
Yeah.
No, it's not. This is another thing this is another thing that, and I've been getting it in meditation for a long time, but I didn't quite put it together with this, that it's not that I'm healing myself and it's not that God's healing me. It's a partnership. In this phase of history, we are in a new phase where it has to be both. The Shari
Yes.
that I keep quoting talks about the relationship between the giver and the receiver, which can be teacher and student, parent, child, but God and you, and that the main one who controls whether what's available gets through is the receiver, not the giant infinite giver. The small little receiver says yes or no, and that's who we are. So miracles, it's never just us, and it's never God alone. It's both of us together.
Yes.
Well,
it's
especially
both of
when
us
it comes
together.
out into the physical world and the body, when it becomes not just like you started out by saying health is a natural thing. It's not an unnatural thing. It's a normal thing. When that's part of this idea of the dir b'tachtonim, the dwelling place in the lowest world, that as we get involved in this and we take over doing miracles by our nature, but why can we do miracles by our nature? Because we have God within us and we're a divine essence. So that brings that which was above earth into earth, like brings the light of the Garden of Eden into the physical world here, the world of complication, until everything becomes divine and godly.
Yes, but it's interesting, the world of complication, but when we're working as partners with God, it becomes quite simple. Because I've got the best investor backing me. Do you know what I mean? Like, imagine like you have a business idea and like the biggest VC in the world is like, I'll back you. Blank check, whatever you need. You are going to shoot for the moon. You're going to hire the best team. You're going to go all out. We forget that we have the best backer behind us. Then it's simple, right? You're right. It has to be 100% at all times a partnership. So I mean, I don't know, I've never really said this publicly, but I have really strong reactions when like someone is sick or hospitalized and you see all these groups going, oh my gosh, we need you to cry out and say to Hillel.
I do too. I do too.
I'm just like we need boots on the ground, people.
Yeah.
I'm not going to sit on my couch and cry. No, let's like give them, let's teach tools. Let's talk through like what's going on in the body. Why is this coming up? Like, I can't run to every hospital room. Maybe one day I will. That'll be cool. Transcend time and space.
Then there won't be hospital rooms.
Exactly. Right. But it's like, no, there's much deeper work. And it's weird because we think that Tehillim is deep work, and it is when we realize what is Tehillim and what is King David doing.
Psalms. Mm-hmm.
Yeah, the Psalms. Thank you.
By the way, Rabbi Sutton, who's one of the last speakers tomorrow, just wrote a new book on Psalms. That's paradigm breaking. You probably know. It's
incredible. It's incredible. Yeah, I highly recommend it. And I'm just going to plug this for him because I don't know that he'll say it, but we really need someone to help fund the publishing of that book. I've read it. It's incredible and transformative, and yeah, it'll change your life. So just putting that out there for whoever's watching this. Okay. So when we talk about I'm just going to quickly say this because I was just saying King David on the Psalms, who, by the way, is, the lineage of Mashiach, right? It's deep pain. It's deep struggle. It's like, God, I need you. Why aren't you here in this part of my life? I need you more. Why is this happening? That thing just happened. How did you let that happen? Okay, I trust in you. You are my rock. You are my redeemer, right? I think it's Psalm 30, right? I turn to Hashem and you heal me. Hello. Right? I turn to Hashem and you heal me, v'tir pa'eni, right? So it's all there. I think Psalms is like such a good example of this. So if you're going to sit down and read Psalms because you feel helpless when someone comes down with something or there's like some crisis, feel it, go into it. Where is that in your life? When you can feel that in your life and do your own work, and it's breaking and it's kicking and screaming at God sometimes and working on it has to be a very real, tangible relationship. That actually creates more opening for healing for that person and for the whole universe, because that's what we came for. So
cry out.
Yeah, to cry out.
But you just said, I echoed that you have a negative response when people say, let's cry out.
Right. But they're different cries. So I'm glad you just said that, because I just want to say, I'm not crying in like, wallowing in like misery and doubt. And it's okay, by the way. I think it's really important to like honor when there's doubt, but it's crying from, I feel broken. I feel broken. And when we can go into the brokenness, that's actually when there's the most room for God. And that's what the body wants, right? It's actually kind of the dress I'm wearing. This dress is from Mika Fashion, and it's based on the art of kintsugi. And the art of kintsugi is this Japanese art where they break a vessel, right? They break a vase, and when they put it back together, they paint gold on the cracks. And the whole idea is that you are more you and more beautiful and more magnificent when you come back together after breaking. That is all of Kabbalah. That is the whole creation of the world, right? The vessel breaks and then comes together and now can hold more light. And that is true. That's what the body needs. So the thing we were talking about before we came into like this crying concept, like, okay, so what does that mean that it's so natural and that it's all coming together for this moment in time? And what does that mean? Like we should be bringing it, right? It doesn't mean that everyone has to be completely healed and that process has to be completed for Mashiach to be revealed. But we have to be in that process. We have to be in that process because, as you pointed out really beautifully, Shifra Hendrie, is like, and then God comes in as the partner. God is the partner. So he can do that completion. He can put that nice like bow and tie it all up afterwards, right? But we got to be doing that work, and we got to be starting that process so that he can come in and finish it and complete it, right? For all of us. And that's going to go one and the next one and the next one and then the next dozen and then the next 100 and then just global.
And God is the goal.
That is the goal, 100%. And we're part of getting to that goal, right? I don't just sit back and wait for it. I'm excited for
gold, not gold, gold. Also gold.
Okay, also gold. Yeah. That is the 100%. Thank you for clarifying. Yeah, it makes a lot more sense. It was like, okay, but also, so here's the interesting thing. We tend to think of miracles as like, again, this like big thing that God does, but nowhere, I can't think of any example of a miracle that didn't require human interaction, human action, right? Even the splitting of the sea, which to me often feels like the biggest miracle, right? Is like Nachshon had to step in and say, I trust you, I trust you, I trust you, I trust you. I'm going to walk in, I'm going to do this, right? And also Moshe was part of that. He actually had to do a physical like act to be part of God splitting the sea, right?
I mean, there are situations where like someone's car, God forbid, rolls over and they see an angel. Maybe they called out. I don't know.
For sure. No, for sure. I think that's what I think. I really believe that in our modern world, actually the miracles are happening much more quickly without human intervention. I think but if we look at scripture, we're constantly reminded we have to be part of that. We're the partner, which I think is so ironic because, again, I agree with you. Today we see miracles much more without the human partnership there. It's like God just gives that to us. And I think that's really it's really important for us to notice that, he wants to be revealing this in this way right now. And I do believe that there's partnership in the sense that, again, when I'm doing my work, when I'm working on my own process, when I'm working through my own limiting beliefs, when I'm bringing more God consciousness into my reality, it creates more space for that person, for my neighbor to have the miracle. Right.
And also, there's a general, you're 100%. There's a general consciousness of miracles in the world, even in TV shows for a long time now, for at least a decade. That people more than that. Yeah.
Right.
So, the nature of that's also the other thing is there's this idea of nature and miracles, that the nature of the world keeps changing.
Yeah.
So it becomes more and more miraculous. And now it's natural to have miracles. So we need to look for the bigger miracles and be partners in those. That's exactly what the Rebbe says in.
Yeah, 100%. Right. And the Rebbe has a beautiful mimer. I'm not fully through it, so I can't like distill it just yet, but on Chet Iyar, right, which is coming up in about a week, 10 days, the 8th day of Iyar, and it's all about how the body is higher than the soul, and how it's like so simple to reveal those miracles, right? So when we think about miracles, we all have a choice to make. And I was going to kind of talk about this later when I was going to say like one of like three things we need to harness health.
Also,
I mean, there's like,
a bunch of people have asked if you could please share some of the things that happened to you that you use of it. Yeah, I don't want to.
oh, well, I can share that. I could share that. I'd rather share like what others can do, but yes, we can kind of overlap them. But so one of the things I want to talk about is like, you have to become the person that sees the miracle everywhere, because actually there are miracles happening all around in every moment, right? The fact that I'm sitting here talking to you, like, can we just talk about like you're in spot and I'm here? And like, we think transcending time and space means that in order to be in two places at once, I'm going to have to physically do that. Why did we decide that like Zoom is not an option? Like when it talks about transcending space, I'm literally in your home and spot right now. Like that's profound, right? Or the flowers that just bloomed yesterday. Like I don't, in my yard, it's like shocking. There's like 18 new colors. There's yellows and reds, and they weren't there yesterday. Like actually the day before. What? Like what? How is that? I freaked out. Like, so you want to be the person that sees it. That's a miracle. That's a miracle, and sees that in every moment, right? A cut heals on your body. That's a miracle. That's your body is so amazing. That is profound, right? It's so profound. So becoming the person who sees the miracle in all of these things and doesn't need the miracle to be the splitting of the sea. In doing that, you actually harness the larger miracle of the splitting of the sea, right?
So a miraculous consciousness. The Rebbe also talked about how in a time in Jewish history, a king, well, I won't go through the whole thing, but he basically said that we need to publicize the miracles. It's one of the pathways to Mashiach.
Yeah, it's very, 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 very important. And it was, by the way, a very scary thing for me to publicize. It's like so
when
funny.
You got healed, you mean? When you healed?
Yeah. I didn't want to tell anyone. I was like, everyone's going to think I'm crazy and I'm nuts. And I think this is like, and so I only told my family and my roommates at the time. That was it. And then like very slowly, like when people, like a close friend would say like, oh, how have you been? Like, how's your health? You know? And if it was like a really close relationship, I was like, well, actually, like I'm completely healthy. I'm actually completely disease-free. And I would share that. And it was really interesting to see the reactions and the responses. And I did it very slowly. And then eventually I was like, okay, I just have to do this. And I did. I like hosted a big evening and shared it to publicize the miracle. But it's very interesting how society is not, it's like we don't realize that that is way more normal. No one had a big reaction when I shared that there's a diagnosis. There was way more like pushback in sharing I'm healthy, way more pushback and conflict and challenge.
People didn't believe you?
Didn't believe me, or it felt like a conflict, like how, but is that possible? I'm like, you could take it up with my doctors if you'd like, I mean, I had to learn that ultimately it's because of what people are experiencing in themselves. It's a conflict for them, right? How could that person have that and I don't, or my mom doesn't, or my sister doesn't, right? How could that be? So it brings up a personal conflict. And that's why now it's so important for me to be in this conversation, because I want us all to be seeing this at all times. So developing this like miraculous consciousness, that I love that you coined that term, is also part of that is also surrounding yourself, inundating yourself with the miraculous. So not just becoming the person that sees the flowers blooming and like totally freaks out and is amazed by that, but also always hearing stories of miracles. I mean, there's like hundreds of podcasts on this today, right? It's never been easier to know about the miracle happening to the person on the other side of the world, right? And so we want to inundate ourselves with this so that it becomes normal, so that it sounds like, oh yeah, of course. Why wouldn't it be? Right? And so I also like, it's hard, there's so much happening in the chat. It's hard to like notice everything, but someone posted like, I want to believe, right? But I'm still not there. So belief doesn't just, it's not something like we're born with. It's not just like a nice inspiration. I mean, that would be really nice, but we have to work on it, especially as adults, because so much of our belief has been eroded. We have to like unlearn all of our programming in order to believe. Your natural state is to believe, but we have all this other stuff on top of it. So that's why I love this. Like I inundate myself with that all the time. Even today, I mean, I'm seeing miracles every day. I see people healing every day. It's profound. So I get to see it. But in order to still hold that space for a client, when they're having their down day, when they're like, what if this isn't going to work, right? When they're in that space, I have to really be able to still believe that for them, hold that for them, right? And that can be really hard when we're talking about like really severe illness. So I am constantly surrounding myself with stories, especially of healing, but of all miracles that like, so that it will feel totally natural, totally normal, way more normal than non-miracle. Does this make sense?
It makes so much sense.
Yeah. So it's really about like, that's one of the 3 things I wanted to leave everyone with today. I mean, there's a million things, but like what's a tool you can do to start harnessing health or any miracle in your life right now is inundate yourself with evidence of that, right? Not the opposite. Don't go Googling like all the horrible things that happened to the last person who got that diagnosis, right? Do the opposite, right? That's what you want. And you want to just be listening to that, right? And there are books on this, and it can be bite-sized, small miracles, but listening to all of that. Kids also, by the way, are a great way to harness this, because they do get excited by like these like small little things, like look at the rock, they look at this rock, mom, and like, you're just like, okay, it's a rock, but go there with them. Like go there with them. They're amazed by this. This is a creation, right? The creator made this little rock, and my child sees some kind of like form in this, right? Or my niece or my nephew or my neighbor, whatever it is. Find a child to be inspired by on this topic, right? So I want to say one other thing of how we're specifically told that miracles are going to be different in this phase of history, okay? And specifically health, but we just went through Passover, and we're reading how the Jews had to run out of Egypt, right? Even though there were many, many, many miracles, and they should have been able to like just leisurely walk out. Nobody cares after what the Egyptians went through. It should have been like, please leave, right? So
I'd say please leave, but then
they went after them, right? And they had to run. Right? They pack your things, be ready, get out, right? So it says that we won't in the full revealed Geula, right? Which we're already in these times now, we won't have to run. So what does that mean? It means that it's not going to have to be this like big pomp and circumstance. I can just in an instant, from one moment to the next, leave Egypt. And Egypt literally means constriction, right? Which for any person is going to mean something different in your life. It could mean emotional, right? It could mean spiritual. That's usually what we're referring to, but it can mean what's going on financially. It can mean what's going on in a relationship. It can mean health, right? So from one moment to the next, it might not have to be all this intense, like the 10 plagues and the back and forth and this whole thing, right? All the fireworks. It could just, and then running for my life, it can just mean, oh, so I could just walk out of that. Oh, like, well, I go for a walk every day. Could it be that simple? So obviously we're, on the one hand, we're saying there's deep inner work to do, but that's the work, right? It's not as intense as it used to be. And then the revelation comes as easily as just walking out instead of running out. The revelation is going to be so clear, so easy. But when it's that simple, it may not feel miraculous. If we're expecting some like big fireworks, right? Does this make sense? Like, are you hearing this?
I'm hearing it. A lot of questions are coming up in my mind, but I'm definitely hearing it.
Okay. So I'll finish this. And I want to hear your thoughts. So basically it's like, we're told like, we're not going to have to walk next time, right? When we leave the ultimate galus, right? We won't have to run. Sorry, yeah, we won't have to run out, right? So that's God telling us, and this is also like the our teachers telling us that it's gonna feel so natural and so normal. And that's why like I've been getting really interesting calls lately where someone will call and just say like, oh, well, I have this diagnosis. And I'm like, okay, well, like, how are you, what's going on day to day? Tell me about your day-to-day symptoms. I don't have any. What? It's like, it's so weird. I never got these calls before, but like in the last 6 months, I've gotten like a dozen of these calls. Why are you calling me? Like, well, I don't know. I don't want to live with a diagnosis. Why are you living with the diagnosis? Like, why are you calling it that? Why are you walking around saying you have a diagnosis? You haven't had a symptom in 10 years. I mean, literally, I've got about a dozen calls like this. And I'm just like, people are, yeah, a dozen calls at least. And I'm just like, people are walking around fully healed and didn't even acknowledge it. Like, do you hear that?
Yeah, I hear, not only I hear it, it just brings up that we are living in a narrative in general, that we are still in exile and life is hard and there's scary forces running after us. And that is actually causing us to be in that space when it's optional.
Yes.
Oh, that's really deep.
Yeah. So now I have to teach a whole different course on like how to acknowledge your health once you have it, right?
Get out of denial. Get out of denial.
Denial, right? Yeah. So I wanted to kind of touch on that too, because we are told it's going to be simple. And so I really want people to be able to walk away, like looking at like, for example, I mean, it's unfortunate, but I work with a lot of clients who've had complications with pregnancy and childbirth. And so there's a lot going on for the babies. So it's very hard. It can feel like that's normal. But the only reason that starts to feel like that's normal is because like that's the thing someone calls to share. Nobody calls to be like, my baby's healthy, right? No, nobody's like gushing over that. Like that doesn't make headlines, but that is the norm. That is way more normal, right? And we miss that. So I just want it to be so clear that no, like health is the baseline. It starts from there. And that is miraculous, but it is the most natural thing in the world, right? And so then from there, right, we can say, okay, so now there's a person with some symptoms going on. Okay, so now that's an invitation and there's an opportunity here. We need to bring more God consciousness into the body. And I want to be really clear. I'm not minimizing this or diminishing this. It's not simple. Like I did the work. I know how hard it is, right? And I have to keep at it, right? But to understand, we have to go into the healing process and into the healing journey, or let's say, even before you've started the healing journey, just when someone's just dealing with a diagnosis or waking up with symptoms, the very first step is that believing health is possible, is believing healing is possible. That is like always, always, always the most important thing. If you want to create something, you have to believe it's possible, right? So
you have to be willing to allow for it and act as if.
Yeah. You have to be willing. And so first you believe it's possible. Yeah. And then you took me to the third thing. You have to act as if it's there, right? Act as if you already have it. How would I, and this, I say this a lot in my course and with my clients, is like, how does a healthy person make decisions? What do they do? Right. And do the same for anything you want to harness in your life. Wealthy, right? I'm restructuring my whole business right now. And like, it's going to look so different. I don't know what it's like to be the coach in that context. So I literally booked an appointment just like to catch up with an old friend who is doing this now. And like, I literally just want to absorb that energy. How do you live? I'm going to literally ask her these questions. Like, how do you make choices, right? How do you choose where to budget or how to hire or how to spend your evening, your leisurely time? I want to start to understand, like, it doesn't mean I don't need to be her, but I want to start to understand, what is it like? I'm not there yet, but I want to harness that. I want to call that to me. What is it like to be in that space? Okay. So how can I already start to make decisions differently? Same for health, right? The same for health. So, one of the biggest things when it comes to illness is we actually push ourselves so hard. So hard. And I'm sure people watching this can relate to that. We push ourselves so hard. And we do that because we start to feel like, well, there's limited time. And if I feel okay for one day, then I have to use all that energy. And then I end up even more sick the next day, right? And healthy people are actually much better at making balanced choices. Much better, right? You know what? I know it's your birthday party, but like, it's been a really, really long day. I got to be up early tomorrow. Let's just grab lunch next week. I got to go to sleep. Healthy people wouldn't do that. Or there'd be like a whole big story about it, right? There'd be like, I keep missing everything. It's always, my body's always limiting me. Like it's this whole thing, as opposed to just like, I feel so much better when I get a good night's sleep. So let me just do that. Right. So we don't have like, we don't have access to that in a sense. So I always say like, you want to
guilt, compromised health with guilt. I mean, you keep talking, but that just strikes me that it's a profile.
Yeah.
I don't wonder if the illness comes first or if the guilt comes first. I would think that the guilt and lack of balance comes first.
I think it's, one of these like deeper chicken or egg questions. They're kind of hand in hand, right? I think the person who's living with a lot of pressure, the nervous system can't sustain that. Something will develop, right? And if we go deeper, so I always say there's always the physical and the metaphysical. So if we go deeper, then, okay, so now I just said this is based on the nervous system, but I just spent an hour saying this is based on God consciousness, right? So what's happening is the nervous system, right, which is part of this body that was built to hold, to be a house for God, right? Like there isn't space for that, because when I'm feeling so much pressure to show up to that thing, I'm not in trust. I'm not in godliness. I'm in, what are other people going to say? How are they going to, what's their reaction to me? Am I going to let them down? And like in God consciousness, I don't worry about that. In God consciousness, I show up because that's what feels aligned, because that is godly, or I show up because that's fun. And that's also part of enjoying God's world, right? Or I don't show up because I want to take care of this body, and that's also godly. Like there is no right or wrong for each person in each moment. There's a circumstance. But when it's just a reaction, it's out of that pressure, it's out of that guilt. So, or it's out of, right, the fear of rejection or the need to be liked or what, any of these things, right? Or the messaging that we just were raised with, right? That's always like the biggest shocker. Like we don't realize like how subtle these little things are. Like, of course you should stand all day Friday in the kitchen and cook all the food that you're going to throw out anyway. Of course. How could you not do that? Like, well, is that pleasurable? Does that feel godly to you? Do you feel aligned in that time? Is that time where you're feeling connected? For some people, that really is a connection and a growth and an expansion. I'm cooking for my family and I love that. And there are days, I used to believe that too. Now I'm very clear on like, I want simple, I want easy. I want to have the energy to be at the table with my loved ones, which I never used to have because I was cooking all day, right? So, and now there are days where it feels, I'll wake up like, that just feels amazing. That feels delicious. Yes. I want to cook all day, and that feels good. And that feels expansive, and that feels godly, but I do it because that's what's feeling aligned in the moment, not because of a should, and not because of a story. Right. And because I couldn't last week, so I better do it this week. Does this make sense?
You know what? Very much so. If you're going to define, I'm still taking notes. Sorry. If you define Gullus versus Geula, exile versus redemption, the core personal definition would be slavery versus freedom. That's what exile is. It's slavery. You don't have access. You're separated. You're forced.
Yes.
You're struggling. You're under control. And redemption is liberation. Is freedom. Yes, obviously, the ultimate freedom is God consciousness, and that's the redemption of the world, because that the soul has been exiled into a world where we can't see and feel that a lot of the time. But yeah, 100%. So any choice that we make that's out of inner compulsion or being a victim is an exile choice.
Yeah, you just stated that so well. That's incredible. Like what you just said is so amazing. Yeah, it's an exile choice. Yeah, and that is, it hurts the body.
So our body, I wonder if our body is, you talk a lot about how the body's giving us messages. I wonder if the body is ultimately, and this is what is, if it's ultimately showing us where we're in exile, which does then invite God consciousness.
Yeah. Yeah, because it's feeling the exile. So it's always a direct reflection of where we're actually at. It's always showing us that, right? So I had a client yesterday, and in our session, she's telling me like, I have a really stiff neck. And we've worked through like the symptoms that she came to me for. She just loves to do the work. So we keep doing our sessions, she's fine. She goes, oh, I actually have some physical stuff today. Like, okay, I have a stiff neck. Okay, that's not random, right? Like, it's also very interesting, the word. Some people could say like stuck neck, right? So where are you feeling so stiff in your life? So we didn't start there. First, we just stay, okay, put your focus on it, put your attention on it, feel that symptom, send it love, surround it in love, right? Each time is a different technique, but that's what I felt called to yesterday. And just let it know that it's okay that it's feeling this way. And let it know that you're open to hearing what it wants to express and what it's here to show you. And she suddenly, like, all the stuff started coming up, and she started sharing like this dynamic happening with a relative, right? With a family member, where she's feeling like she has to dig her heels in, right? Out of like protecting her own values. And I was like, that's so interesting. Your actual value that you've expressed to me is to be flexible and open-minded, right? So your body's like, this doesn't feel good. This doesn't feel in alignment. This isn't God consciousness. This isn't you loving that other person. And you're not getting anywhere because now you guys are locking heads. So you're not, right? So as we're talking about it, right, the neck calms down, not because we did something magical and profound, because we listened to the body. It's just listening, and it's trying to convey a message. And if we're not right, it'll usually get louder, right? If we're
Right.
not right. So that symptom will be like, okay, you missed the point, So, and the truth is, we have these examples all around us. Everything around us is a mirror, is a reflection at every moment, right? When something, I had this the other day, there's like an area of my life where like, I just keep hitting walls, and I'm like, okay, clearly there's a message here. What is it? And it's hard to know. Sometimes the message is just get off the subject. Don't go there. Just leave that thing alone. And sometimes the message is you are like totally missing a really important part of your own work, of your own avoda, right? And you have to be able to look at that and see that. So it's happening all around us. The most powerful one is in our body. And I want to be really clear. This doesn't mean that if there's a lot going on in someone's body, that doesn't mean like you're doing everything wrong, right? It doesn't mean that. And it doesn't mean that like you're not doing enough work. Because I think so many of us, I see this a lot, like really, really deep spiritual seekers, there's stuff in the body, there's stuff going on, right? And so it's a learning. Go ahead, go.
I don't want to keep interrupting you, but I can't help. I mean, I could help it, but it's just it's putting together so many pieces. Mashiach, the Torah talks about how Mashiach is suffering, that Mashiach takes on a third of the pain of the whole world. There's I think it's the Yalkut Shimoni, maybe it's the Gemara that talks about how Mashiach sits at the gate of Rome, wrapping and unwrapping his bandages. So there is a paradigm of taking on sickness and somehow spiritual people, like you said, you start talking about spiritual people.
Yeah.
I'm a spiritual person, so it caught my attention especially. But there is something about spiritual people and illness that I think needs to be unwound. I don't think it just came. It's not random. It's been
not random.
The paradigm. So part of redemption is to change the paradigm. Just like with wealth, there has been a paradigm of spiritual people and wealth not going together. And the Rebbe specifically talked about that, and that we have to do everything we can to be wealthy at this point, spiritually and physically. That's part of redemption.
Oh my gosh, I have such chills. Yes, this example of wealth is a perfect example. It's 100% true. It's not supposed to be like that anymore. So
anymore. It's not supposed to be like that anymore.
But it has been a paradigm.
Yes.
And it's something I like really, really struggle with, because I look at a lot of my colleagues in this space, in the healing world, and they're amazing practitioners and healers, and they're struggling so much. And it's this like, what's happening, And I've brained about this. I've had discussions on this. I don't have a full understanding on it yet. But there is really, really something there. And I think it's part of what you're saying, like Mashiach wrapping the bandages is like that spiritual process. You feel a lot more. You're aware in a different way. You are taking on a lot. I think part of it is we're not supposed to be taking on a lot. We're not supposed to be taking on
Well, we
others.
have been supposed to. I think we have been supposed to. I really think that it's that I really think that you're hitting on that quantum flip that happens
Yeah.
when a child goes, to adolescence, that there's a flip in the middle, or to adulthood, where once it was good, once you had to listen to mommy, and now that you're grown up, that's a really bad idea to just
Yes.
listen, think.
Yeah.
So
Yes.
yeah, there is a very clear parallel in our maturation as human beings, and to see that the old paradigms, that they did have validity, that they were superimposed on it, that's the nature of exile, where it got, as you said, it got superimposed. Okay, maybe a little bit later, but that's the nature of exile. That suffering is superimposed upon the natural Garden of Eden experience for a purpose, but now the purpose has been achieved in terms of the gestation of what's ready to come out. And now it's up to us. It seems like our part is to make that shift in consciousness where we connect to the field of the future rather than the field of the past, and then align ourselves. Like you're saying here, you did step 1 and step 3. I believe it's possible if step 1, step 3, act as if. I don't know if there was a step 2.
So step 2 was that miraculous consciousness, right? Inundate yourself. Inundate yourself that this is possible, that this miracle is possible, right? And that helps a lot with the first one as well, right?
Sure.
So I think these 3, in terms of harnessing a miracle, right? There's many, many tangible physical steps you have to do to bring healing into your reality and to turn on the body's natural healing capacity. But when we talk about this in terms of like bringing God consciousness into the body, and harnessing your own miracle, it starts with these 3 pieces, right? First of all, working through the belief, and believing it's possible also means like facing your doubts also, where you don't believe that. Work with that, cry it out, talk to the therapist about it, call your friend and be like, I don't believe it. Why do you believe in me? I don't believe it. Right.
You can ask God for help. You can ask God to help you as if you do believe it, even, and to help you when you don't. Just miraculously suspend that consciousness creation of the thing that you don't want to believe.
Yeah.
I've done that. I haven't done that with myself, but I've done that with a very close family member, and it was completely miraculous.
Yeah. It's also why we get coaches and mentors and people, because there are going to be days where we don't believe in it. Right. Like that's just normal. And you and I are both inundated with that all the time. We have to like go back and like, no, this is real. That's why we're here right now. Like, no, guys, this is real. All the stuff you're seeing, it's happening. We're in it. Like, you're not crazy. This is real,
Yeah. A bunch of people, when I asked before Ani was on, I asked, like, what are you experiencing? A bunch of people said, this feels real. Just using those exact words, which is phenomenal, because it's been conceptual until now, even if we've had glimpses of it, or if a few people have lived in it, now it's really emerging. So there's a gap. So we have to realize that there's that gap in the brain, which part of us is connected to the past and which part of us is opening to a deeper truth of the future and allowing it to affect our bodies.
Yeah. Well, and that's also why I think the paradigm is different now, where maybe the spiritual seekers, the healers, the leaders were, the teachers were dealing with a lot of illness before, and it doesn't have to be that way anymore. But I think the challenge is that a lot of people haven't gotten the memo, right? It's different.
Somebody who is positioned to teach others is a soul that is taking, it's really difficult. It's really difficult not to take things, even when I'm doing these calls. Today's a lot better. Yesterday, there's something in when you want to, I'm sure you deal with this all the time, when you want to give and you connect to people on a deep level, when you're authentically, downloading things and feeling the other person and waiting for the message and connecting to God and the future and the past. So you're not so protected. I mean, I find that I'm not so protected, and that's a nature that if you're not so protected, then you're vulnerable. You'd be a lot more vulnerable than that person's that is not sensitive. And, okay, it's your birthday, but what, from another perspective, why should I care? I have friends like that also.
Yeah.
The
Yeah.
conscious balance is just a natural way of being. I mean, I come first. That's it. I take care of myself,
Yeah.
it's all, but the spiritual teachers or the healers are more on the opposite end. They're more on the Mashiach end, wrapping the bandages, unwrapping the bandages, giving what you don't have, because how could you not?
But it doesn't have to be that way, because
no, it has to shift out of being that way. Exactly. That's the point. But it is that way. It's been that way.
Yes. Like,
And it served a purpose. It served a purpose. If it didn't serve a purpose, Mashiach would not be bearing a third of the pain of the world. So
right.
that has to unwind.
And that allowed us to get to this point. I think that's also what I'm really kind of feeling from what you're saying, is that allowed us to get here. There had to be people who could really feel where others were at and help them. And the help had to come very differently than the way it is today. Today, people, we have access, we can do our own work, we can do our own learning, we have access to so much more. Yeah. Really, so many others like had to do it for us. So of course it's going to be so draining on the system, right? On a physical body, because you're right, you're so vulnerable and so exposed in that, right? So, and by the way, like, I just like, this is like such it's intense work for all of us. And hopefully if we're conscious of it, then we're a lot safer in the work. But like, I put up a ton of protections, right? Physical and energetic, all around my space and myself before I do anything, including a call like this. And like, still on a daily, weekly basis, I have to check in with my practitioners and be like, any attachments, any stuff that I picked up? Yep. Like 9 times out of 10, it's a yes. Okay. So we just clear it, but I have to be super on top of that, because I don't want to walk around with all of that and then have stuff develop. Right. So just want to say like it's a really active part of also being in this space. Like, it's not just that the paradigm is shifted now, we have to really, really, really be on top of it. Yeah.
That goes for everyone here, because everyone here probably is an empath healer, whether professionally or not. You're the one people go to. You're the one that people, ask for help, that expect that you're the one that you pick up someone's problem if they won't carry it. And that's also needs to shift. And it's hard to shift it. We have another, this is the long call. I have one long call during the day. So each day. So this is the long call. So but maybe I have a minute just to tell this true story. So I opened these $9 sessions yesterday for people who want to get a miracle starter like consult. And I said I had to cap it at 20 because I'm going to hear from Kaley afterwards when I say this. I know I am. Whatever. but people are so ready. And while I was talking, 50 got booked.
Wow.
Right. So, I mean, on the one hand, I'm really gratified. How am I going to, I don't know, but whatever, but it'll happen, please God. But I had to cap it. And then I got a lot of emails already because nobody had listened to the replay. In fact, I'd only mentioned it once in the morning and it never got mentioned again. And so anyway, people asking if they could be, and we are making a waiting list, but I don't know what's going to happen with that. But anyway, I literally last night, I mean, I was full of energy and feelings and whatever after the intensity of building up to this. And then it was, 6 calls and 7 counting me and just so much ramp up. And I hadn't slept well the night before. I started crying when I was thinking about all the people, like, could I open it for more people? But then I thought to myself, but then who do I not open it for? And what if hundreds of people want that and I can't do it? And I literally started crying. And that's okay, you could say, oh, and so, but that's an old paradigm. There's something that's
paradigm
down. There's something very draining and not right about that, even though we could say it's even a virtue, right? To be so compassionate and it is a virtue, it is a good virtue. It's a virtue to everybody here is kind and empathetic. It is a virtue, but it's not serving us. There's something wrong with the way it's presented.
And it's also not serving them.
Yeah, it's not serving them, right? This is the era of empowerment.
And it's actually forgetting the partner, right? Like, it's so amazing that you could be in touch with that and recognize that Hashem is your partner in this. So if you can't pick that up, he's going to have to, like, he's going to have to find another way for them. Like, that's just, and we as healers, as spiritual guides have to be, it's so weird. I really never call myself a healer. I was like, did you just say that? But right. As the guides, we have to also hold that space, because what do we teach more than our words is we teach who we are. So if we can be the ones to say, I trust in the creator of the universe to also make sure that those extra 80 people, wow, right, will also get guidance and will also find the right teacher and the right guy. It just cannot be, I'm not supposed to be that person's, shaliach messenger.
Now or not in that way, it doesn't have
Right.
to be. It's also an exaggerated self-importance. Like, yeah, this
Mhm.
you need this. And if I don't provide this for you, what's going to happen? It's so stupid, but it's instinctual. I think it's embedded into people like us. This is our soul tribe.
Yes. Yeah. And I want to say one other thing that's so interesting, that I think because the Jewish people have this like Geula consciousness and like this, there's like a pressure there also, right? It's really much more us that we struggle with this. And it was my non-Jewish business coach who really put me in my place on this whole idea, this whole concept, because I was like, no, I can't do it like that. And I have to serve these people in this way. And he was like, that's just ego. And I was like, I thought I was being like, it was so virtuous,
Goalless, right?
And he just called me out, like this was years ago. And he was like, that is ego. That is you not getting the help to people that you think need it, because you're just going to be like, you're going to be just completely depleted. Like you cannot, no, like that's not how it works.
Sustainable. Yeah. It's a zero-sum game.
Right.
It's not sustainable. The same energy keeps going from one person to the other. And that is
Yeah.
that is yesh mi yesh. That's not yesh mi ayin. That is not right. That's the old field. Oh, wow. Yeah.
It's the old paradigm, and it's not,
not Soviet.
and you're kicking God out of the process.
Yeah.
Right.
There's infinite renewable energy source that we
Right.
all get to connect to now.
Yeah. And it's an infinite renewable energy source, and you have to know where you are needed. And so I know we're totally off the topic here and we only have 1 minute left. So I just want to say though, that Rabbi Sutton shared something incredible with me recently that he pointed out to me. So maybe I'm just sharing this for you, Shifra Hendrie, that like when Moshe had to delegate, right? So I didn't know this part of the story, but he said like Aaron came to him and was like, and he was struggling, like how, but these people have these needs, and I'm the only one who like knows all, like, this is what I know. Yeah. And Aaron said, okay, we have to find like a way to categorize. And like, when it's an issue, when it's a topic of like, okay, you have to be able to go into their past lives. You have to know the root soul. You're the only one who can see that. So those cases go to you. The other stuff of like, but that spoon in that person's tent is really mine, someone else can deal with, right? And so because he's not able to use, he has to use what his gifts are for, right? So that helped me a lot to also like, how do I know like who I'm working with and where I'm delegating, right? It's another coach is taking it, or trusting that God is taking care of it with someone else. And then which is the case that like I take on. So that helped me a lot. So I hope that helps. And the one other thing I want to say, again, I know we were going to,
no, I just need a break. I have 15 minutes. We're fine. We can.
Oh, I thought you were starting now. I thought you were starting
at the top of the hour.
Okay.
I do need 10 minutes, but we can do 5.
We got to give you a break. So this isn't necessarily on like this topic of harnessing the miracle of health, but I want to say for everybody here who's listening, as you were sharing, Shifra Hendrie, you were like, well, probably people listening are a lot of empath. If you guys are listening to this call, you are on the cutting edge and you are the teachers, even if you're not right now a coach or like in that mode, you're not facilitating something. It doesn't matter. You are in the conversation before everyone else is in the conversation. And this is going to happen overnight. It's just going to become the most natural. Like we're all going to wake up one day and the whole world is going to be deeply infused with revealed godliness. And people are not going to really know what to do with that. They're going to need someone to walk them through it. So all of you are going to be explaining this to your neighbors and to your coworkers. And so you are the teachers. Like, just understand that in you being here right now, like, I really believe this. We're the teachers. Someone's going to have to help everyone. And like, It can't just be 2 of us. So like all of you are here and part of that. So I think it's really important it's not just how do you become that, as you're doing the work, you're harnessing the miracles in your own life, believing in them, working with it, finding people to help you continue to believe, and knowing that very soon you're going to have to also be passing that on. Right? Not taking it on, passing it on. So maybe we'll have to work on that paradigm shift as well.
Right.
Yeah.
Work in progress. So step 1, believe
Yeah.
it's possible. Step 2, miraculous consciousness. Step 3, act as if, model yourself, understand
Act as
that,
if it's already happening.
act as if it's already happening, right? And then
Yeah,
is there
yeah.
anything else that you want to share? Because you're such a wealth of information and people are, this is an area in which people are so much suffering. Do you believe that everyone, I know you've said that you think there are very few people in the world whose actual mission is to deal with sickness as a way of being, and that everybody else gets to do a process of healing. Is there anything more you can
Yeah.
say about that? Like how come in some cases it would take longer, in some cases shorter, or anything that comes to mind that you think people would want to know?
Yeah, I would say like it's very multidimensional. And we also like we are complex beings, right? Especially our body. And so our body didn't like it's everything I already said, but also came in with all this other stuff. So you would be amazed at how much your body's also processing a past life illness, right? So like it's amazing. Even after I healed, I did a lot of past life work after the healing process. And I saw past lives where I had, a neurological illness. Interesting. That's not random, and like how my body handled it and how my loved ones handled it. And seeing like how different that is now, So I would say, like to your question of like, why is it different paces for different people? The reason it's metamorphosis is because it's for each of our own journeys. It's our own spiritual path. What one person needs to learn or work on is different than the other, right? And one person might be doing the work and in that spiritual expansion and self-discovery, but surrounded by people who are not there. So, okay, that can slow the process. Of course, you have to constant reminders and go a little bit deeper. So I would say like, be really open to like the solution can come from really interesting different places, right? You have no idea. And the other thing I want to say about like the mind body approach, right? Because everything I teach is mind body connection. It doesn't mean we ignore other stuff. It doesn't mean I only rely on my inner world. I can still go to the acupuncturist and I still go to the past life regressionist, and you have no idea where your healing is.
She does physical things. She still does the physical. She goes to the acupuncturist and the past life regressionist.
Okay.
That is a memorable line.
Yeah. So I definitely go there, but so I mean, how can I phrase this? Like the tangible, like it still might come from outside of you.
Okay.
Because God is going to send a messenger. If it doesn't come from just within you, which is also God, there's going to be another messenger. So we still do these things, right? We still do these things, and it might be diet, right? I don't teach diet in my program, but it might be that. So be open to that. Still go like feel what's aligned for you. And I just want to say like, it's a holistic process. When you're trying to heal the body, you have to understand it's about becoming. It's about a becoming you, the real you, the true you, the one that like really embodies and walks with God. And that's daily work. That's moment to moment work, right? I don't know that like last night I was embodying God. I was dealing with stressors, but I was trying, to stay in that consciousness, right? And we want it to get to the stage where I'm reminded, I come back to God, I come back to God, I come back to God. And when we are in full Geula, it's just godliness. It's not me and God and me with God. It's just godliness. Like that's the ultimate, which all of us will experience again through the flesh, as Job says, when it's fully revealed. But we have to start trying to close that gap as much as possible. And it's easy to think the body is taking me away from God because it's limiting me, because we have to start seeing them together.
So healing is the path to redemption, actually.
Yeah.
And is all miracles.
Yes.
Wow. Okay. Amazing. You're gonna have to come on my YouTube also, guys. If you're not on my YouTube channel, do it. So yeah, no, for sure. Not this week though. So Kaley's offering a first access to her new program, which she's not telling us about yet, and you can get that as all of by signing up. Go sign up on the under her bio, on top of her bio, on the schedule page, and I'm also putting the link right here. But you should that all of the speaker offerings are on that page, so you don't have to get them off the Zoom chat. So
no, you inspired me. So we'll leave that surprise for later. But you inspired me that I'm going to offer your audience one more thing. So we'll save that surprise for later. We'll have them make sure that they actually open their emails. And yeah, and I just want to, I will say
they're going to get a surprise. Is that what you're saying?
Yes, I'm going to offer you. You inspired me today with what you said about the 20 calls, the 50 calls, and like, so you inspired me because my calendar is you can also book a call with me, but my calendar is very limited. So I'm going to have to figure out what I'm going to offer, but you're inspiring me that I do want to try to create some more space for that. So we'll figure out how many calls that will be, and we'll offer it just for your audience. So yeah, it's not going to be 100, but for sure not 20. But I think I have like 2 calls open a week right now. So I want to create something special for this group because I love this conversation. And I also just want to clarify. So I've only taught live up until now and everything. And now it's going to be like a totally new course online. And it's going to be open to, we have beta testers who are going to be taking this soon. So that link that I gave you guys is going to offer your audience a chance to be one of the beta testers, which
cool. Okay.
I told Shifra earlier, I was like, this might be a huge mistake. I don't know if that's a smart thing to do, but we'll give you guys access.
Do I have to sign up, or can I be on the list anyway to get
for me
considered as a beta tester?
You're
fine.
Fine.
Sign up? I am.
No, you're good, Shifra.
Okay. Okay. I have, just happens to be in the book I grabbed was sitting right in front of me. It happens to be the book you actually sent also. I have two, you can't see that, but it's a lot of food.
Yeah,
for thought. It really fits into the whole paradigm of Geula Geula that's happening through the body, which is also a massive theme of this whole summit, that everything and of Judaism in general, Torah in general, because it's not just for Jews, but for the world, the blueprint for creation, but that the Geula happens on the ground, through the ground, in the ground, and through the physical. So, wow. Okay, I have to go. Not that I want to.
Don't get your break.
I have your phone numbers.
Thank you. Yes, thank you. It was so special. I love this conversation, and like the whole world needs this. Really, Hashem should create so many miracles from our conversation and with everybody here.
Amen, amen. And guys, just before in 6 minutes, we have Harrison Klein. You don't know him. I haven't interviewed him for 10 years, but he's really, really cool. He's a friend of mine. He's like, his mind is, he's connected to a lot of people who are on the cutting edge, people that I'm not connected to. And he's just like a lot of people that are like that. He's just like, Shifra, I want to be in your summit. So stay on for him, come back for him. And then we have Nir Manusi, and then we're done for today. And another just incredible mind bending calls. And Harrison is really all about, like, he trains people to be millionaires and to.
Harrison is a different link.
Oh, Harrison is a different link. Don't stay on. Get off.
I'm closing the call.
Okay. Then I'm gonna actually leave the call. Okay, bye, Kaley. You guys.